What if you woke up tomorrow and found that you could no longer be free to worship without fear of government persecution? What if the police could come into your home without a warrant, search through your personal things, and seize anything they deemed inappropriate? What if you could be placed in jail, held there for years without any formal charges, and while you were there you could be beaten and abused, and your family had no right to petition the government for help or to protest your condition, and the news media wasn't allowed to report such things? Without the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, these things could easily happen. I'm Chris Clinton, and as a Georgia sheriff, I'm also a constitutional officer. I'm a member of the Constitutional Officers Association of Georgia, and I've spent a lot of time researching the Constitution and what its framers had to say about the document. What I'd like to talk to you about today is the very real fact that we could easily lose our constitutional rights in America, and what you and I as citizens must do to ensure that that never happens. James Madison, who wrote much of the Constitution, once said that a people who would govern themselves must arm themselves with knowledge. I believe there's never been a time in the history of America when it was more important than it is today to heed the words of James Madison. Our Constitution provides certain rights and liberties to every American. It's the basis for our form of government, and today much of it's being ignored. In our nation's Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson penned these words. He said that all true forms of government derive their just powers through the consent of the governed. And it's with that idea in mind that our country was founded, truly a government of we, the people. The Constitution provides for a central government. It also says what that central government can and cannot do. Article 1 of the Constitution refers to Congress. In Section 8 of Article 1, the Constitution names the 18 areas in which Congress has authority to make laws. But also in the Constitution is a Bill of Rights in the first 10 amendments. These 10 amendments were considered necessary by our forefathers, so much so that the original 13 states would not ratify the Constitution until this Bill of Rights was included. The 10th Amendment covers those things not named in the Constitution. What it basically says is that anything not named in or forbidden by the Constitution is a matter for the states or for the people to decide. Anytime Congress goes outside of Article 1, Section 8, they do so without any constitutional authority, and they violate the 10th Amendment. And yet this has begun to happen more and more frequently in our country. Now this is the scary part. There are those in our government that would like to see the central government have total control over our daily lives. The Declaration of Independence spells out that we fought for our independence because our forefathers wanted freedom from the tyranny and the usurpations committed by King George. And yet we have many in Congress today who are willing to commit those same acts of tyranny and usurpation against the states and its citizens today. If we allow the central government to continue to ignore Article 1, Section 8 and the 10th Amendment, how long before they ignore the rest of the Constitution and our Bill of Rights? Remember the scenario I began with? Your rights to freedom are all contained in the Constitution, many of them in the Bill of Rights. The same set of rules is being ignored today. What's to stop the central government from just doing away with the Constitution and making all of us servants? The answer is you. Our government was founded upon the will of the people, not the will of its elected officials. In fact, that's why we elect our leaders in America instead of having them appointed. If you really want to maintain your freedoms, you have the power to do so. But first, you must do what James Madison said and arm yourself with knowledge. Get a copy of the Constitution, like this one. Read it carefully and read it often. And then watch your elected officials and what they say and what they do. If they're not going by the Constitution, if they do anything outside of this document, then no matter how noble sounding the cause or how flowery the speech, they're destroying the very foundation of your civil liberty. Then, get involved. Vote, speak out, call your elected officials, let them know of your concerns. If they don't act, or if they ignore your Constitution, then don't support them. Or better yet, find someone to run against them. Find someone who will uphold the Constitution, and in so doing, will uphold the rights of every American citizen to live free. Now imagine an America in which we were all allowed the freedom that our forefathers envisioned. Imagine if our tax dollars weren't wasted on things that were of no benefit to the American people. Imagine if instead of giving trillions of dollars to the banks that helped cause the current financial collapse, that instead the government was taking care of families and individuals who were losing their homes to these very banks. Imagine if Republicans and Democrats alike would stop thinking about politics and start thinking about you and I. Imagine if anyone in government forgot for one moment that they were there to serve we the people. They would find themselves either unelected or impeached. These are the dreams and hopes that our forefathers had for us. What they feared was that the central government would become someday like King George. And so they put in place a constitution to protect our civil liberties. But that's up to you. In closing, let me encourage you to do three things. Become very familiar with your constitutional rights. Watch what your elected officials do. And vote. Many of our country's leaders have been ignoring the Constitution. I've expressed my concerns, and I ask, will you join with me? If we don't speak up now, we may be forever made to hold our peace. Our forefathers were willing to give their very lives to secure our freedom. Are we willing to remain vigilant and sober enough to keep it?
Let's think about that, Scott.